Unfortunately, I heard in the middle of the Indiana State game, and it was hard to be excited about it. I was willing to trade the appointment for a few baskets last Wednesday.
Talk about that process and what all goes into it.
Well, it's a complicated process. That there's 10 members on the committee. By bylaw, at least 6 of them have to be from BCS conferences, so there's not a lot of open slots for non-BCS. They're 5-year appointments, so they don't open up, on a regular basis. And it's a committee I've wanted to be on for a long time, but you kind of have to wait your time and wait for the proper slot to open. There's an administrative cabinet that all the recommendations go through, and I know some of the members on the cabinet, and they contacted me during our Indiana State game to let me know that I did make the committee, but it was kind of hard to be excited about it during the Indiana State games.
What kind of honor is this for you as an administrator? It's got to be close to the top of honors for you.
Well, I don't know if it's an honor. When I'm on the committee and the brackets come out, I'm not sure those phone calls will be considered a badge of honor. But, it is the most public committee of the NCAA. It's certainly one that a lot of fans and basketball coaches and media pay attention to. It's a tremendous amount of work. I know a number of people on the committee, including the chair, Mike Babinski. Ron Wellman's going to be the chair, and Ron was the chair of the baseball committee for years and spent a lot of time in Omaha. And so I know a number of people on the committee, and it's a tremendous amount of work. You typically get assigned 6 or 7 conferences that you're assigned to watch, either as a primary observer or secondary observer. And most of the members of the committee are watching at least 2 and 3 basketball games a night from November through March. And so now you may think that's tough duty, but it's a tremendous amount of work with a lot of public scrutiny. But I'm really excited about it. It's a position that a lot of people covet, and I'm honored and humbled to really have a chance to be on the committee.
This morning, when it came out, it was announced on Twitter. A lot of national media pundits saying the NCAA finally got something right. What does that mean to you to hear some of those comments about you?
Well, I'd like to hear them after the 5 years. just like a lot of other things, whether it's a coaching hire or a recruit or whatever. It's nice to have them say about that about you before, but what you hope is that they think that as a valued member of the committee.
Now, some might think, outside looking in, that you're going to stand up for the non-BCS schools or whatever, but that's not really your role in this, right? I mean, or is it?
Your role is to analyze the data and to get not only the 37 at-large teams, and to make sure that you're doing everything you can to get the 37 most deserving at-large teams in, but then to seed the entire 68-team bracket, and both of those are important. And it's especially hard now. 20 years ago, I don't think there was a depth of talent at the Division I level that there is now, or at least there wasn't the parity. Now, the difference between the top 100 teams is the narrowest I think it's ever been. And so I think it's an unbelievably difficult chore for the committee to identify the 68 teams, and especially the 37 at large, and then to properly seed them with all the considerations or qualifications you have in seeding the teams. You can't put teams from the same conference in the first weekend. You don't want to put teams that played each other in the first weekend. And when you start looking at all the qualifications they have for seeding, I think it's especially difficult. I know people on the committee that have been on the committee in the past, and I know a lot of them on the committee now, and I know they put a tremendous amount of work into it. And they do, I think, an unbelievable job. And yet it's also a situation where it's easy to be second-guessed.
Does this speak to not only you, but also Creighton basketball's what they've done the last 10 years or so?
I think it obviously speaks a lot more to Creighton basketball than to me. I think the fact that we've had sustained excellence for a 20-year period of time certainly has had something to do with it. In fact, it has had the majority to do with it. Without Creighton and their sustained excellence for a large number of years, I have no chance to get on the committee. I think every athletic director in the country would love to be on the committee, and I'm on it as a representative of Creighton and what Creighton's done in basketball for the last lot of years.
And that won't change based upon the elephant in the room. If should Creighton change leagues within the 5 years, you're still on it, regardless of what league the school's in.
I would think that if we're not in the Missouri Valley, whatever league we would join would be considered a non-BCS league, and therefore I would have an opportunity, unless the Big Ten or Big 12 or Pac-12 want to invite us into their conference. That would change.
Are you allowed to lobby for your school? Do you have a voice there, or are you not allowed to?
You vacate the room
Okay.
whenever your conference is being discussed, not just your team, but your conference. And when you're assigned conferences, the conference that you're a member of is not one of your assignments. And so, most of the discussion about your conference or teams in your conference takes place outside of the committee meetings.
Committee members can't ask you questions about if they want information.
Yes. And every committee member, you have your network, and you're calling basketball coaches, you're calling people with the great basketball minds, and you're asking them when they see the Big 12 or the Big 10 or the Pac-12 or whatever, you're asking them their opinions of the conference. So, the NCAA does a tremendous job of making information available. I think, Tom, you participated in a mock bracket, and when you see, I've gone through the mock bracketing in a number of different sports: women's basketball, men's soccer, women's softball. When you see the amount of information that's put forward, it's amazing. It's just every person has a different interpretation of that data, and that's what makes it interesting.
One of the big questions that always comes up is, a number 2 in the Valley versus a number 6 in the Big 10 or 7. Who gets it?
Yeah.
That's what they were always wrestle with.
And that changes per year, and again, the men's basketball tournament is a huge animal, and everybody looks at the animal a little bit differently, and it's really an interesting process. I'm excited to be on the committee and hopefully can add something to it.
Where would you rank this as far as the achievements in your career?
Well, I'd have traded it for a win on Saturday night, which shows you, I guess, how desperate we are right now for a win. I haven't had the time. I think that's a great question, and I really haven't had time to think about it. I don't think about things in those terms. I have trouble just managing our day-to-day responsibilities here.
Since we have you, anything new to report on the conference stuff, or are we still waiting and seeing?
Yes.
Still shopping for prom dresses or
No
whatever?
and yes.
No and yes. Okay, we're still waiting and seeing.
Yeah, that's also a complicated process. And when you see all of the things that have to be decided that really are debatable, the attorneys are going to make a lot of money off the process, and yet, they don't have the Catholic 7 don't have a commissioner, they don't have a media contract yet, and they haven't had decisions made on a lot of issues with the Big East. When are they going to exit? What's the exit fee going to be? What about who retains the Big East name? What do they do with NCAA units? There are a lot of things that have to be decided before they move forward.